In this lesson on special quadrilaterals. We've talked a little bit about quadrilaterals in the past when we were classifying our polygons. Remember that quadrilateral means four-sided figure. This word here, quad, means four, and then lateral meaning side. Our objectives for this lesson are to define and classify quadrilaterals along with their related parts, practice writing definitions, and then, of course, as always, learning more vocabulary. We've talked quite a bit about how the vocabulary is very important for our units. Let's take a look at our first page. All right, so reminder, what's a quadrilateral? We already talked about that, four-sided figures. So for these specific types of quadrilaterals we have, let's take a look at these pictures. I'm going to highlight for you some important things. So the first one we're looking at is trapezoid. So look over here in this section on the left-hand side where it says what it is. And I've got a picture of three trapezoids for you. So we notice that they're all four-sided figures. They're all quadrilaterals. But notice these markings. All right? And remember, what do these markings tell us? When we have arrows pointing in the same direction, going on other sides of lines or line segments. All right, hopefully you're recalling that those signs tell you that they are parallel. So we have a pair of sides that are parallel. Now look over here to things that are not trapezoids. All right, so we're showing this random picture down here. That's not a trapezoid. We have parallel sides here, but what's wrong with this picture? How many sides does it have? And then look over here. We have a four-sided figure. We've got parallel sides, but we also have opposite sides that are parallel. So what's different between these shapes on the left-hand side and this shape right here on the right-hand side? So be thinking of that as you write your definition for trapezoid. All right, let's look further down here at the kite. So we have a kite, and we all know what a kite looks like because we've seen kites in the air and stuff like that. But let's look at it mathematically, geometrically. What's a kite looking like to us? Now again, we have four-sided figures, and we have markings on this picture to tell us certain things. So notice that the markings are different. These are not arrows. These are just line segments. And those line segments tell us that things are congruent. Right? So we have a pair of congruent sides here at the top and a pair of other congruent sides at the bottom. Congruent here and congruent here. All right, same thing. So then when we go over to the right-hand side, we have a few examples of quadrilaterals, and we have some things that show us congruent sides, but what's different about these congruent sides here on this shape and the congruent sides on the other shape? Notice that all four of these sides are congruent. Is that the case over here on the left-hand side? All right. Again, looking over here, we have opposite sides are congruent, but is that what's going on the left-hand side for what a kite is? All right. And then over here, this coffin-looking shape one. You know, what's wrong with that? Why is it not a kite? What's different about that one? All right, so I'll give you some ideas on what to expect on those quadrilaterals. Let's move on to our next page. So write your definitions and move on to the next page when you're ready. All right, so now we have some parallelograms. All right, with parallelograms, notice again we have the markings. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and put in some extra markings here that aren't currently on the picture, but are true for parallelograms. And maybe that will help out with some of our shapes. We already see the signs for that opposite sides are parallel, but opposite sides are also what? All right, so try and do that on the left-hand side here too. Oops, not quite so neat and steady. So what is a parallelogram compared to what it's not over here? And then looking further down at the rhombus. All right, what do we notice about the rhombus? Specifically, when we're looking at the rhombus, what do we notice about the congruencies? All right, And then over here, what is a rhombus versus what is it not? Go ahead and write your definition, and then when you're ready, so pause as long as you need to write your definition, and then when you're ready, hit play to move on. All right, so now the next stage is rectangle. All right, so what do we notice is happening with the rectangles? And I want you to give you a focus on part of that word, on rectangle. What do you think we're looking at on the rectangle? What do we notice is new in our pictures on the rhombuses, or on all of the quadrilaterals we've looked at? This is the first time we're seeing anything talk about the angles. So what is a rectangle compared to what is it not? What do we have to have marked for us? Because look at this picture right here, and then go over to here to what it's not. What do we notice is marked here that's not marked over here? What makes this a quadrilateral? Sorry, what makes this quadrilateral a rectangle? Especially noting this one and this one. All right, and then a square. All right, so a lot of times we see pictures of squares and we think, oh, that's a square. Oh, that's a square. But how do we know? What do we have to know in order to say? Because notice this is on the sides that say it's not a square. So these look like squares. Why are they not squares? What's going on the left-hand side that makes these shapes on the left a square and these shapes not a square? So again, with your definitions, you want to be as precise as possible. Describe what it is and what makes it different from the other things that are similar to it. We'll look over your definitions in class to make sure you're on the right track when it comes to classifying our shapes. But that's it for special quadrilaterals. So when you are ready, go ahead and share your definitions, and we will do some exercises in class.